Hello, everybody. President of the Wealth Management Advisory Club, Jack Mitchell here, welcoming everybody on Zoom. And I want to make sure that message on there. To our first in-person meeting here in the Florham campus, Metro. It is on Zoom. Today, with our first guest speaker of the semester, is going to be Austin Hagaman from Withum. Funny enough, I'm actually interning with him right now in tax verification, so it's kind of a big deal. I'm coming in here, but guys, if you guys are on Zoom, make sure you have your cameras on, make sure your mics are muted. Please give Austin your undivided attention. And with that, Austin, I'm going to let you take it away. Cool. Everyone's good on here. We'll make sure they're on. So, thank you.
Cool. All right, so I'm assuming everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. If not, that's it.
Searching for meaning. My job, to take that most precious of gifts you give me, your attention, and use it against me. I'm going to flip through this deck, and I want you to see one card, not this one. That's too obvious. Pay close attention. That was too fast. I'll do it again. Are you ready? Okay. Did you see one? Yes. Do you have one in mind? Yes. And do you see your card here? No. That's because you're looking too closely. What have I been telling you all night? The closer you look, the less you see.
So Jack gave me a pretty open forum here. So you're going to get whatever I'm going to give you. But at this point in the presentation, you're probably thinking a few things. One, well, hold on. Got to get my pointer right. All right. You're probably thinking, well, shit, the 7 of diamonds was my club, was my card, right? Still not quite sure where this is going. And then the other question you might be asking yourself is, who the hell is this guy? So let's start lightly with the card. So clearly we just saw a magic trick, right? And you're probably asking yourself, well, how did you know what card was my card, right? This movie was filmed several years ago. He's not in the room, he can't read us. How did he know we were going to pick the 7 of diamonds? I think the better question is to ask yourself, how did he make us choose the 7 of diamonds? And how come I didn't understand it was happening when it was happening, right? And from my experience, if we can understand that, we could understand how to perform better in interviews, build a better resume, become more likable, get ahead of our peers, and establish wider windows of success. But before we jump into all those secrets, let's talk about this guy. So who am I? My name is Austin Hagaman. I am a wealth management professional. As a kid, this is me here with my siblings on the first day of school, sometime in grammar school. I was not the smartest kid. I was actually a below average student, all the way through grammar school, through high school, into college, and here we are. So in my experience, my job, we like to use visuals to make data clearer. And so I put a chart up here for you. So all the way to the left, top of class, all the way to the right, bottom of class. We got average in the middle. This is right about where I sat for my learned experience. Now, of course, there's more that defines me than that. I was born an introvert. I am a self-taught extrovert. I am passionate about helping people, about coaching people. I get a good reward out of helping people through difficult situations. I'm fascinated about the psychology of decision-making, but I'm definitely not a psychologist. And lucky for you guys, I am a wealth management professional. I actually work for 2 firms that are associated. There's Pinnacle Associates, which is a large reputable, long-time, multi-decade-long firm that manages right around $8 billion of client assets, which makes us one of the largest independent registered investment advisors in the Northeast. Keyword there being independent. We're not owned or operated by a larger Wall Street type firm who could skew our advice with incentive programs, things like that. So we're actually we're never compensated by any products or investments or anything that we put our clients in, so that they know that they're sitting on the same side of the table as us and can accept our advice for good advice and not just being a salesperson. Then you have Withum Wealth, which is a bit of a startup field. Basically what happened was Pinnacle Associates joined forces with an accounting firm called Withum and created Withum Wealth, where Withum Wealth represents the investment expertise of Pinnacle and the accounting and consulting expertise of Withum, the accounting firm. So I mentioned Pinnacle manages about $8 billion. Of that $8 billion, Withum Wealth manages $1.5 billion, has been around for a little over a decade now. So that growth has been tremendous relative to firms in our industry. So what do I do? Who am I? I am a principal and partner at the firm. I'm a relatively young principal and partner. In fact, I am the youngest partner at the firm, let alone equity partner, by a little over a decade. My job, what I do on a day-to-day business, I am responsible for bringing in new clients and maintaining them. I currently have a book of business about $500 million that I am personally attributed to me, as in I brought it in and I am maintaining those clients. I'm also in charge of a lot of our strategic growth initiatives. So figuring out where are we not growing optimally, how do we fix it, things like that. And some of it is actually taking concepts from this presentation that we're going to talk about today and applying them to actual client situations. So I am also a CFP professional, so certified financial planner professional. I am a CFA charter holder, so a chartered financial analyst, and I am a WMA professional or accredited, I messed that up, wealth management advisor. So my goal was to have more letters behind my name than in my first name, and I think we're good at this point. So since this is the Wealth Management Club, I think it's important just to break these down a bit because they are very important in our industry and they can be confusing. And if you Google them, you're going to get a lot of different, pros and cons and this and that. So I'll give you the straightforward answer. If you were to work at my firm, the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner Professional, is what we would expect all young professionals at our firm to have and or get once we hire you. Okay, it is the gold standard, right? You either need the CFP or the CFA. The CFP is what I would push you towards because the CFP, the material that we go over in the CFP is directly applicable to what we do on a day-to-day basis with our clients. Now, the completion rate is about 50%. So 50% of people who start it, finish it, pass the test. It's an 18 to 24 month endeavor. You need a bachelor's degree or higher to sit for the exam. You need to pass 8 specialized university level courses that are certified by the CFP in order to sit for the exam. And then you need to take the exam, which is a 6-hour exam. When I took it, it was 10 hours, 2 days. Now it's 6 hours, 1 day. And then you need 6,000 hours of professional financial planning experience to actually earn the CFP. You can pass the test and then just wait to get your experience at a firm after that. So then there's the AWMA, which I call my filler accreditation. I needed something to do between the CFP and the CFA. And it's definitely the easiest. It's a high success rate, high completion rate. It's only a 3-month endeavor. And what it does is it covers topics covered by the CFP, but only those that are directly applicable to high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, and then dives a little bit deeper into those topics. Okay. So being that I mostly work with high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals, I just thought it would be something good to have under my belt. But if you have the AWMA, it's really not looked at as much by anybody else in the industry, right? The CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, this is for the nerds, okay? This probably 10% of the material and the CFA is probably applicable to my day-to-day. If you want to understand how to identify heteroscedasticity in a statistical data set, you get the CFA. but most clients, don't even, care to know what heteroscedasticity is and or would it matter. But what having the CFA does for you is when you walk into the room of anybody that has north of $100 million and anybody who is in the industry, you will be looked at as the smartest person in the room. Why? Because the completion rate is very low. It's hard to actually get an actual number because there are 3 tests. And you get people taking break years between tests. You get people taking 1 test or 2 or 3 tests multiple times. But when you do the back of the napkin math, you come out to about 15% completion rate. Or for every 10 people who start on the CFA journey, 1.5 people actually get the CFA. It definitely is challenging, but if I can do it, you guys can do it as well. So to get the CFA, it's a 4 to 5 year endeavor on average. You could do it as quickly, I believe, as 3 years. 3?
Yeah, I'm actually a bachelor for Wiley, so I actually promote the CFA exam. So if anybody on this call actually wants a discount on Wiley product for CFA exam, please let me know. I'll give you a discount on the CFA exam.
There you go. We didn't plan that, I promise. After I tell you about how miserable it is and how hard it is. No, but it's actually something very good to get. I'm definitely happy I have it and would do it again if I had if I needed to. Bachelor's degree or higher, there's 3 tests that have to be taken in sequence that are each 6 hours long. They cover 10 topics, which weights differ based on the exam. And then you need 4,000 hours of professional experience. And then once you pass the test, you need to get recommendations by other people in the industry in order to become a charter holder. So back to the 7 of diamonds. So Jesse Eisenberg, who's the actor who we saw do the magic trick, what he did for us, right, is in the beginning, he is moving the cards around, right? He's shuffling them, cutting them in different ways, basically defining that deck is a normal deck because of all the ways he's chopping it. He's basically saying there's nothing to hide here, right? Without saying it. Then he looks at you, he pulls up the deck, right? And he shows you a 2 of hearts, a red 2 of hearts, right? The 2 being very close to a 7 in terms of the way it's shaped. The red, clearly we're looking at a red card. And he tells you not to pick it, okay? Then he flips through, and the magic, the sleight of hand, the trick, the lie is that the deck is in fact rigged, and you actually cut some cards in the deck, literally cut them, and it makes it so whichever card that you have next to those cards shows up a slight bit longer when you flip through, okay? So what he did there, though, is he did some very tactful things. There's good magicians out there, there's bad magicians out there. There's also good professionals out there and bad professionals out there. You can nail the technical part, you can nail the magic, but if your delivery, if that setup, the way he dealt with the cards didn't convince you that was a normal deck, that you have nothing to worry about, then you would have been onto him and he would no longer have been a good magician. And that's the same thing that goes for, when you're looking for the hiring process. You could be, very smart and not get a job. It's the same thing that goes for when you're prospecting new clients. You can be very smart and not be good at bringing in new clients. So the trick here is this. So in order to explain the trick, I got to bring you back to senior year of high school. I had a teacher, Mr. Joseph Feely. He came into class one day and in big letters, he drew on the chalkboard. And I'm glad you guys have chalkboards here. I presented other places and they don't have chalkboards, so I feel kind of old. But on the chalkboard, he writes, "Those who control the definition of terms control the perception of reality." And this guy was a major hippie, okay? I'm not saying this, I've been against hippies, I love hippies, they're fine. I'm more in the crowd of do you, and I love to surround myself by different personalities, but he was definitely a hippie. He's olive skin, had this like weird fro, hair thinning out thing going on up here, eyes bulging out, wrote this and looked at us like he gave us the recipe for curing cancer. Like he gave us the best thing he could have given us in the entire world. And to be honest, I don't think I appreciated it at the time. But you could take this and spin it a lot of different ways and really use it in your everyday life, let alone in your professional careers and as you look for a job. So what does that mean? He who controls the definition of terms controls the perception of reality. How can you change the perception of reality, right? Just by defining terms differently. Like, why would anyone even let you define the terms differently? Well, for that, I bring you Wonder Woman. So in the Italian Renaissance, Gail here, she would not be considered attractive. Why? Because she's thin and she's tan, okay? Which meant back in the Italian Renaissance that you were likely working outside, which is where you got the sun from, and you were thin, you didn't have access to a lot of food, and you were doing a lot of manual labor. This would be considered attractive. Pale and plump is what the internet calls it, right? Because you're pale, you're inside, you don't have to worry about working outside, you have enough money, and you eat well, right? Because you have money. So, you know, just over time, now this wasn't someone trying to control the definition of terms, but this just highlights how things can change, how based on how we define your social structure, where you are in the social system, you know, impacts what we define as beautiful, attractive, right? Which therefore changes what people think of you. So those who control the definition of terms control the perceptions of reality. So like I said, this teacher was a major hippie. So he would have likely used this line as a lead-in for the fact that the Democrats won the last election because they took better control over what it meant to be a Republican. They redefined what it meant to be a Republican. And the Republicans lost because they lost control of the definition of what it meant to be a Republican. Now, me as a naive high school kid, I took that and said, this is the battle I'm going to fight. The age-old battle of me and my mother and my room that I refused to keep clean, right? I used to get in trouble all the time for my room being dirty. And so what did I do? I redefined the definition of terms, figured out how to lock my bedroom door. And when asked if my room was clean, and I would lock it from the outside so that when I left the house, no one could get in. And when my mom asked me if it was clean, I would say, yeah, of course it is. I would look at her confidently and I would say, it is clean. And there was nothing she could do about it because there was no way she could pierce that definition without actually seeing my room. And then when she asked me, well, why's your door locked? I looked her straight in the face confidently and I said, well, I just spent all that time cleaning my room, Mom. Why would I leave it open and let somebody compromise how clean it is? And well, one, I'm surprised she let me get away with it. But two, that was me very naively, very bluntly, taking control of the definition of the room being clean or not clean, right? Just by taking away her access to seeing it and then just redefining it. It was a very much ad hoc. It wasn't well structured. I look at it as trying to cut a million pieces of paper with safety scissors. I'm sure we've all used safety scissors as kids, right? To get you used to using it, with your hand, but it's not sharp, so you're not gonna, hurt anybody or hurt yourself. Very blunt. What I've learned over time is that you need to be more strategic about it, right? You need to let the other party do a lot of the work. I don't know if any of you guys watch the Summer Olympics. I love the Olympics. When it comes to the different judo type fighting events, actually I love every Olympic event, but it always amazes me how somebody can almost effortlessly just throw somebody right across the room. And a lot of that is because they're using somebody else's effort, somebody else's momentum, their energy, and just redirecting it, right? They're not putting in a lot of that energy themselves to flip them over. They're using the energy of somebody else. Okay, and that's what we want to do when we're defining the terms. We don't want to approach it like I did in high school. We want to guide, right? Jesse Eisenberg, he wasn't like, yeah, look at this deck of cards. It's a great deck of cards. Nothing's wrong with it. He just shuffled it and let us come up with the idea that it was a healthy deck of cards with no tricks in it, right? So those who control the definition of terms control the perception of reality. So let me, further explain this through an example, and then we'll jump into how I think it applies to you and how I've used it. So when we created Withum Wealth, it was like this fantastic idea, right? No one has access. By no one, most people aren't found in a situation where they have access, where their investment advisor, there's an expert in investing, in investments and planning. That's all they focus on. And they also have an expert in accounting and consulting that only works on that. And then those two parties come together. Traditionally, historically speaking, that's only been available to ultra high net worth individuals through a family office type environment. Very expensive. And it's not hard to, and it is hard to come by. But what we didn't anticipate is prospects looking at us and saying, well, you're an accounting firm giving investment advice, right? Do you really have enough resources to support what I need to service me, right? Now, we couldn't necessarily, I mean, we did in the beginning, but to defend that, right, automatically puts you on the heels, right? Just like Jesse Eisenberg didn't say, oh, this is perfect deck, right? We needed a better way to approach this, to make this not even a thing, right? Because it's one thing to be convinced of something, it's another to decide on your own of something. So what I ended up doing, and now you see some of the advisors that bring in more assets do, is I brought sample portfolios to every prospect meeting, not necessarily to use them. I had 5 samples, all of varying amounts. These are actual client samples. We just redacted the client's name to keep their information private, and just laid them on the table. Okay, laid them on the table where the client could see how much each sample was. Right? We didn't point at them. We didn't say, hey, look at these. Just put them on the table and then have the conversation. So that actually helped us in 2 ways. One, prospects would look at it, see it, and just say, oh, to themselves, say, oh, they have a $74 million sample in front of me. They must have enough resources to support me, right? Without even asking the question. 2, it helped, and we didn't see this coming. I didn't see it coming. Is, typically when you're talking to a financial advisor, you meet with them and you say, at the end of the meeting, you say, if you like them, you say, all right, send me a proposal of what you think my investment portfolio should look like. And that elongates the sales cycle, right? There's no contact point there. What this did, because I, in particular, actually walked them through a sample portfolio now, is it led to less and less, almost 0 clients actually asking for a proposal on what their investment should look like, because we are showing them the ingredients of what we think it would look like. We just let them know that based on their situation, we would, pull levers up and down, move asset classes up and down, which in fact shortened the sales cycle and led to a higher closing rate. So it's important that I mentioned that it's key to define the truth. I'm not talking about trying to redefine lies, right? Because that's what's going to get you in trouble. You can convince somebody that a circle is a triangle, but to hold that lie through time is going to be very difficult. And as soon as you lose someone's trust, you lose it. It's very hard to get back. So the key is to focus on the truth, focus on making sure they're understood and that they're being defined correctly by the people around you. So the great job search or success. So how do we apply this to finding a job? Okay, you need to do a couple things. How do you want to be defined, right? You have to think about who are you going to be sitting in front of for your potential job? How would they define you now? And how do you want them to define you? What are they looking for? I know what I'm looking for. What I am looking for is I'm looking for somebody who will eventually one day down the road be partner material, be somebody that I can be proud to stand by, who is going to be social, right? Confident enough to put themselves out there in social situations, to be reliable, to have enough technical knowledge. They don't need to be the smartest person in the room, and just be a well-rounded individual. Now, more importantly, what I'm looking for when I hire someone right out of college is I'm looking for somebody who is going to have attention to detail and who's going to be willing to run through every wall with me. Okay. And now I think that that part is key, because I have interviewed people right out of college and they have that partner material checked off, but that's not what we need them for now. That's what we need them for in maybe 10 years, right? What we need right now is that let's run through walls together and let's do it confidently and precise and have a good attention to detail, right? So it's important that you think about those things when you're defining how you want to be defined. You know, how do you control the definition if you're not even thinking about the definition? Then what stories or truths can be told to support your target definition? Okay, just like Jesse Eisenberg didn't say, this is a healthy deck, there's nothing wrong with this deck. We can't go to an interview and say, I am a really confident person, I am great in social situations. That doesn't work, right? They're gonna just assume you're just blowing smoke up their skirt. So what do you do instead? Well, you have to think back on your experiences. What experiences, what stories can you tell about your life, about past internships, about being in certain groups that will get your definitions across, that will allow you to control the definitions you want to control, that will make you or make your interviewer say, oh, wow, you know what? You know, this person seems pretty confident, right? Or, you know, based on that story, he seems very reliable, right? So, you know, how, you know, so being able to craft that is going to be important. And then third, you know, what are your available tools? When you're looking for a job, your available tools are your experiences and then your resume. Your resume is huge. And I say your resume is huge because when you walk into an interview, there's two types of questions you're going to be asked. One is, I see such and such on your resume, tell me more about it. It's very open-ended, okay? And then the other question is, what's your worst quality and blah, 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 okay? Like that type of, tell me something bad about yourself and then, you know, word it nicely. Let's focus on that first part, the such and such resume. So a lot of people don't even think about this, but this is all a magic trick, right? You know what you're putting in on your resume. You know that they're likely going to ask you, tell me about such and such, right? So you know that for every line item on your resume, you should have a story. There could be multiple stories. There could be one story for multiple line items, but you need enough stories in there that help get across your definition to make sense so that when the interviewer who thinks they're in control, because they seemingly randomly picked a line item off your resume, just like we randomly picked a card in that deck, right? The interviewer thinks they're in control, they're gonna ask the question, and you know that it was planned. You know that you just set that interviewer up to put you in a really good light. So for every line item in your resume, there should be a story. Now I present this in a triangle just because, I don't know, it seemed like a good visual, but in reality, what you want to do is you want to take a piece of paper on the top left, you want to put in the different words, how you want to be defined. Top right is what tools are available to you, and then the rest of the page is how do we combine them? Tell the story, actually write out the story. So I did not do this when I was looking for a job right out of school. I should have. To be honest, I didn't think hard enough about it. Now I did do this though when I started to graduate, started moving the firm from being somebody who was more administrative in the back end to somebody who was client facing, responsible for bringing clients. I wrote down the top left what I wanted potential clients, prospects to think about me, how I was going to sell myself. Top right, I wrote my tools, and then I had my stories. And I actually wrote it out because what you'll find is thinking it through in your head is different than writing it out. A lot of times when we think in our head, we're not thinking in well thought out sentences that you could regurgitate, although our mind makes us feel like it is because, you know, who are we to be our own critic? So to actually write it down, you're forcing yourself to it's almost like you're speaking it for the first time. You're forcing yourself to kind of align the words right and to have it all make sense. So, and then we have a resume. So I could care less about the words on this resume, but I like this resume. I like this resume because it's different, it's clean. The way that this person, the way that Kevin defines himself just visually by this resume, I think of him as creative, I think of him as organized, and I think of him as caring, okay? And this is the first way that somebody's gonna define you is by your resume when you're looking for a job, okay? There are a lot of boring resumes out there that look like they were just written up on Word very quick. By the way, never send your resume in Word format, save it as a PDF, then send it, okay? Attention to detail is everything. So, but when you're putting your resume together, I would encourage you to think a little bit outside the box, okay? To set it up a little differently, to use some color. You want to stand out, you want to look organized, right? That's part of what would be helpful if I turn to associate and give him 15 things to do. I'm only doing that because I believe he's organized, and he wouldn't be working at the firm if we didn't think he was organized. Okay, creative, right? In my world, everything's not necessarily black and white. There's a lot of thinking outside the box. So creativeness is important. And then also, how we structure it when you don't have any internships under your belt. It's very hard to do this, but after that first internship, especially after the second, we want to make sure that your applicable experience represents the largest piece of the resume. Okay, why? Because when we are looking to hire somebody new, we're probably, going through about 50 plus resumes, trying to narrow it down to 10 to actually bring into the interview. Okay, and I don't have time to look through 50 resumes. So what I do is I skim and I go through quickly. Okay. If you aren't don't have the foresight to send us a good resume, then that's where I cut the line. Okay, so it's very quick, and you want the applicable work experience to be bigger, because if your part takes up most of the page, takes up more of the page than the next guy, right? My brain is going to automatically think, well, you are more experienced. So, even if you have two, right, this person only has two things under their belt, but it does take up the biggest part of the page out of everything on there, right? So it's very apparent that that's bigger. And that could be just because they added a couple more bullet points. And in your bullet points, I encourage you to use actual numbers, right? Finance, wealth management, it's a numbers world. Use numbers. I helped put on an event for 50 plus top clients. Right? It's different than I helped with the annual client event. Okay. Put numbers, we're in a numbers world. Also talk about, list the organization you work for, then explain in one sentence what that organization does. Right? Not only does that beef up the section, but it also helps whoever is looking through the resumes actually know what you did. So if we take the controlling the definition of terms, control the perception of reality, spin it a little differently. Every social setting is the same. Whether you're trying to make friends, whether you're networking, whether you're walking into an interview, or whether you're trying to find love at the bar, every social setting is the same. We need to think about, how do you let your peers define you? Okay, and I'm not just talking about your friends. I'm talking about that kid in class you never talked to. I'm talking about that person in the cafeteria that may see you every now and once in a while. If I walked up to them, what would they say about you? Okay. And then how do you want your peers to define you? Right? Do you want to be outgoing? Do you want to be that quiet kid who just sits in the room? Right? How do you want to be defined? So we need to take control of that. We also need to consider the fact that there's these inherent, I don't even know what to call them, but just facts about how we as humans kind of socialize, protect ourselves, right? Everybody has this force field around us. The reason why we've existed for so long is because we're good at protecting ourselves, right? We all have this force field around us. We don't let anybody in. We're not very trusting. If someone randomly walks up to me, whether I'm actually thinking it or not, my brain is going to go to, well, what does this person want from me? Are they going to take advantage of me? Okay. So imagine in that Finding Love example that I mentioned, you walk into a bar, you see this beautiful, person sitting at the table with their friends. The first thing you do is you walk out and say, hi, my name is Austin. I, want to date you, right? There's no way that's going to go well. Even if you are, Brad Pitt, that's not going to go well, right? The first reaction is going to be a negative reaction. So how do we lower that force field? Okay. And then we all assign each other perceived social values. So when you walk in the room, you assign me a social value. I assigned you a social value. Even if I didn't look you straight in the eye, even if my mind didn't think about you, I immediately assigned you a social value. And the more I see you, the harder, the firmer that social value gets. So we have to be aware of that. And then we all have a Pac Animal Mentality, right? We are pack animals by nature. We want to surround ourselves by people who are like us and people who we want to be. And that, my friend, is the key to networking. It's the key to love. It's the key to having friends. Okay. If you're at a networking event, you walk into the room. So by the way, if you ever go to a networking event, before the networking event, usually there's lists. It tells you who's going to be there. Scan the list, figure out who you want to talk to. Okay. So let's say I scan the list and I see this ultra high net worth individual. I want to talk to that person. I walk into the networking event. I see them across the room. Just like in the bar example, if I walk straight up to them, I'm probably getting a negative reaction. That person knows, everybody knows that he has a lot of money, probably gets asked, frequently to invest in certain things and to be a part of certain things, right? He's constantly being told. The last thing I want to do is walk right up to him and just sell him, right? Or just walk right up to him in general, because that defense mechanism comes on, right? There's that force field. So I have to understand that there's also perceived social value, right? I walk into the room. Let's say, I have friends or colleagues over to my left. Go up to talk to them. I know this person, maybe once, maybe I had a class with them once at school, talk to them about it. Maybe I never talked to that person ever outside of that class that we had together at Fairleigh Dickinson University, but I'll still walk up to them and bring up something relevant, right? About how hard that final exam was, or this or that. By the way, if you haven't realized, this is also applicable to the bar example, right? You see that person you were in class, walk up to them, give them a comment. Why? Because for each person you're seen talking to, whether they actually see it, they pay attention, they think about it or not, your perceived social value goes up because it's an endorsement, right? If I walk into a room and 5 people act like they know me, I have a good conversation with them, all of a sudden in our brains, that's 5 endorsements that I'm somebody worth talking to. So if I am worth talking to, that starts to lower the force field. Now, this doesn't always work because, we're not always paying attention to everything, right? But it certainly helps your chances. And in the background, it definitely helps whether the person's realizing it or not. And then the Pac Animal Mentality. So, you walk up to that ultra high net worth individual. The last thing I want to do is bring up business. So I'm bringing up things about the room. How ugly the carpet is. Maybe how bright the room is. There was a speaker at the event. Was it a good speaker or a bad speaker? I'm trying to, one, create an introduction that allows me to enter into the room, right? And by enter into the room, enter into that person's space, right? By just sliding something in, it doesn't have to be very relevant, but it's something that you guys can talk about. And then 2, find commonalities, right? Where you live. Did you have to drive far to get to the event, right? Maybe you end up living near that person. Maybe you know someone who lives near that person. But find commonalities because we have a pack animal mentality, right? We want to surround ourselves with people who we feel similar to, right? So if you can find a way to relate, you're going to create that connection, which firms that bond, okay? And then also what, leveraging that pack animal mentality does and finding commonalities does is it puts you in a position to help them, right? I may find out that you're going to California in a month. I have a brother that lives in California, right? He's always raving about these 3 restaurants. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but how about you give me your phone number and I will shoot you a note with them. I'll talk to them, shoot you a note. I think they're great places to go, right? Harmless enough, I get the person's number. Or there's always the last ditch effort of, oh, here's my business card. You give someone your business card. What do they feel compelled to do? They feel compelled to give you their business card. So then you get their contact information that way. And then the important part is to actually follow up. And that is the quick 101 of how to socialize in any single social part. And also how I went from a introvert to a self-taught extrovert is I realized that it was as simple. And I realized that, being the quiet kid in the room was not helping me, was not helping my career, right? Was not helping my social life, right? So by putting myself out there and by leveraging these things, by being cognizant of it, some people do it naturally. Those people that you see that are social butterflies, they're social butterflies because they're doing it naturally. They were born, they don't realize they're doing it, right? And then you get the people who don't do it naturally, that can learn how to do it. And that's someone like me. So those who control the definition of terms control the perception of reality. I could talk and spin this 1,000 different ways. Like I said, when I was in high school, I didn't understand the power of this. I use it, I think about it all the time, not necessarily the line itself, but how to approach situations, how to deal with clients. I could talk to you about how 20% of my job is probably technical. The other 80% is dealing with personalities, wording things correctly, wording things in a way that's going to be understood, accepted, liked. Today the stock market was off a lot at one point in time. It rebounded, but having conversations with clients, talking them off the cliff, so to speak. Why it is important to stay the course, not to panic, right? And to use this as something we can take advantage of as opposed to being something we're scared of. It's all how you define the situation and how you control the definition. As soon as you lose control of the definition, you lose control of the situation. So, I'll leave you with one thing. I would encourage you to just think about this and to practice it, to try to fail at least twice a day in putting yourself out there, talking to somebody, right? Because it will help you with interviews. It's going to help you get a job, and it's going to help you for the rest of your life. I know one of the things I do is when I have nothing to do at night and I'm by myself with my dog, Steven, I look at him and I say, yeah, I'll probably go out, and I go to the bar by myself and sit at the bar, and whoever sits to the left or right of me, I don't care if you're, hot, ugly, big, small, guy, girl, old, young, I'm going to force myself to talk to that person to get them to like me. Okay. 50% of the time I chicken out. I would say of the 50 that I don't, 50% I probably strike out, and the other 50 I'm successful. But it's about the failures that starts to make it natural. So I would encourage everyone to do that. So I will open it up if anyone has any questions. Happy to chat about anything really.
Anybody have any questions for Austin?
So my name is Dominic. I just have a question about something. Can you go back to the fooling your peers? When you mean by fooling your peers, is it trying? I wasn't understanding. Does it mean like make them think how you want to be? Like I was a little confused on what fooling was.
Sure. So fooling is a little pithy. It's supposed to be. It's meant to be memorable, right? But it's more about getting. It's the magic trick. It's getting them to understand you the way you truly are, right? The way you want to be. Right? It's not about lying to them, but it's about getting them to open up to you so they can understand you. That's really the trick here. And understanding these things just takes away the barriers. We can take away the barriers, the nonsense, the noise that would make somebody fearful to fail again. Right? You open it up where you can actually establish that relationship. So by fooling, I mean taking down the boundaries, taking down those force fields, to let them know, the true you, and therefore, you can have a relationship.
Because sometimes sometimes when I go for a job interview, I am a little nervous because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
So, sometimes I want to project confidence and knowledge about the job, but I don't want to make, I want to be ethical,
right,
in a way. I want to be myself and not change who I am. That's what I was referring to.
Right. And that's important too, right? You're going to attract what you're projecting out. What I would say, you go to the interview, I would try to find a commonality that's going to make you feel more confident. It's going to, take some pressure off of you. Interviews shouldn't be questions just directed at the interviewee.
Right.
You should walk in and immediately try to find that commonality. Why? Because all of a sudden that interviewer is reading you as somebody who's social, somebody who would be good in the office, in the back office, or in the front office, client facing, right? Would be able to network, bring in clients, right? So, don't be afraid to find those commonalities. And that's very much a practice trait, right? You can't take someone and have them not practice it all their life and then throw them into social and expect it to go well. So that's why I encourage you to go out of your way to try to fail twice.
Question, guys? Anyone on Zoom like to, you guys can unmute yourself and ask any questions. No one? All right, I want to give her, let's give Allison a big round of applause. Let me get a picture with you, post on our social media page.
Sure.
Instagram. Joe, can you,
Yeah.
take a picture? You, or actually, you just send it up. You want this- you want that? You want that picture? Steve, we're gonna get over, like. Wait, take the mask off, because I can't.
We're gonna get in trouble.
No. On your breath.
On three, 1, 2, 3.
All right, Dom, you get it, because. What else?
Is this good, Joe?
Yeah. That's great.
Okay, how about I go back?
Actually, memories.
On three, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much, Austin. Thanks so much. Everybody on Zoom, please stay on. We have a couple announcements to make, so everybody please stay during next week's meetings.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
So much for coming.
Please stay.
So do I need to hand this back to you before I leave? Do I need to hand this back to you before I leave, or do I just leave the room?
You can. Oh, I told everyone on Zoom. Come on, guys. All right. Couple announcements I'm gonna make for the club. First of all, next week, we have 2 meetings next week. We were actually able to get, and I'm actually really happy about this. We were actually able to co-host again with the professional development program here at FU Silverman. And we will be co-hosting I believe it's pulled up on my screen as well. Hopefully I get the right, hopefully I can get the right one up here. We'll be hosting the Brown Brothers Harriman session, which will be Wednesday, March 2nd. It'll be 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. I will be giving the Zoom link to you guys. It is on I think you have to register for it, but they'll give you the Zoom link the day of it. And then next week, we are going to have Patty Ross from HBK, CPAs and Consultants. They'll be coming in here in person. For all our members that are on the Florham campus, I highly encourage you to come in person, but if you can't, I totally understand, with the COVID and everything, you guys come via Zoom. Also, I believe, oh yeah, the announcement.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I have a question. So is there like a suitable code for this meeting today?
Oh, geez, I forgot about that. Thank you, Gloria, for reminding me.
No problem.
Thank you for reminding me. See, this is why she's my VP, everybody. She reminds me. This is why. All righty, I forgot about that. Totally slipped my mind. All right, let me get the code. What? All right, let me share this with everybody here. You guys can scan this for PDP points. And remember, if you are viewing this via Zoom, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you are viewing this during the recording, you cannot take credit for these points because it is basically already done. I know Jess is supposed to come back in the room. I don't know why whoever left. I don't know who left, but they left. Okay, she came back. Jess, you can scan your code for PDP points as well because I left it up there for you.
The other thing is, I know you're talking about PDP. I'm not in that.
You're not in that?
No.
Suitable?
No, I'm
Okay,
not.
Okay, after I end this, I'll talk to you about that.
Sure.
So yeah, guys, next week, 2 meetings next week. First meeting is gonna be at 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. I hope we can get a big turnout there because we are co-hosting this event with the professional development program. And then we will having Patty Ross from HBK CPAs Consultants will be coming here in person. Like I stated earlier, for all my Florham members, please make every effort to come in person because it looks good on our end. I know for our Metro members, I do open the door for anyone who wants to come in person, but if you can't, Zoom is totally fine. Also, I'm going to highly encourage all of our members to please print out your resumes. We can give them to the recruiters. That way it'll look good on our end. Then we can say, hey, I saw this kid at that meeting. I might want to hire him. And also, I believe everyone got the message, I believe from, Sandy Holder today. But I did mention at the beginning of the semester that the Wealth Management Advisory Club will be hosting a FU Shark Tank event. Well, I can confirm with you as of today, what is it, February 24th, 2022, that the Wealth Management Advisory Club and the FDU Rothman Institute will be hosting the FDU Pitch 2022 competition. I can probably pull this up on my screen. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, okay, quite in person.
I'm gonna mention it. So basically, the FU pitch competition is it's like a Shark Tank event, and I am opening the door for all majors, all business majors, entrepreneurship majors. If you have an idea that you want to bring to the table, please register for this event. If I can pull this up bigger, so. Okay. So basically, you have to submit your idea by March 28th, and the competition will be April 6th. It will be in person, it will be at the FDU mansion. On the Florham campus will be in the Ledford Hall, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. up to $2,500 in prize funds. So if that doesn't encourage you to, don't take this competition. I don't know what will, but we are going to try to get PDP points for this event as well. So please, oh wait. That's right. I shared the wrong screen. There we go. So yeah, 6 to 8 p.m. April 6th. We will be promoting this out through the Pillar, through our club, and all the other sources. Even we have our logo right there, guys. So you guys can all give your pat on the back because we are now co-hosting the event. Just one more announcement. We do, as the Wealth Management Advisors Club, we are in a joint venture with the Finance Club and the CFA Club here at FGU. And we do have the markets update meetings, which basically are every Tuesday, 3 to 4 p.m. If you are interested, you can always come to Boomer Labs on both campuses. I know John Buda, she will be at the Metro campus next week. For our campus, I think Professor Boltzwitz will be there, I think I will obviously be there as well. But if you cannot show up, we have the Zoom link, and then the Student Man Invested Fund Club meetings, they'll be from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Next week, actually, we'll be presenting maybe presentations for pitching stocks, because like next week, I can tell you this right now, that we will be getting the $100,000 fund. After a semester and a half waiting, we are finally gonna get the money. And I'm so happy that we're actually gonna get this money in. So with that, and if I didn't forget anything else, that is it for this meeting. Thank you so much for everyone to come out here today. Let's try and promote this out to everybody at FU Silver on the Florham campus, on Metro, on Vancouver, even in Roxton. All right, let's try and make this a big club. All right. And with that, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you guys Wednesday for the Brown Brothers Harriman session. Have a great rest of your week, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you.
Thank you.